Hi everybody, welcome to the AQA Paper 1 revision for tonight. Tonight I'm going to do again a question 1 and question 4 because they really are important to the exam. Remember what I said last week, it's 20 marks, so it's 50% of the reading paper. Tonight it's got a really nice text for you. Great Gatsby, so it's quite a traditional text of the 1930s, and what I like about this text as well, the reason why I've shown it, if I can just bring this up for you for a second, if you look at this is what it'll be like in your exam. If you got a text like this, it has got paragraphs, but there's not a lot of paragraphs in there's not a lot of dialogue in there, so you really do have to read the text first, as I'm sure your tutors, like I've been telling my group, read it first. Don't try and answer all the questions, just read it first, try and get some understanding of what that text is about. And remember that this exam is about how you understand how words are used effective to really affect the reader. What are they trying to do to the reader? Are they are they giving them some description? Are they telling them about a character? Are they trying to infer that something else is going on in the story? So, in that first part of your exam, when you get in, just nice deep breath and have a read through the text and just highlight some words there, okay? And I've done that in part of our PowerPoint tonight, okay? So you can see, as I say, it's a quite contemporary text, and we're going to have a little bit further, so let's get the PowerPoint up for you. Okay, so we know about that question 1. I'm not going to read through the whole text tonight, I'm afraid. I don't feel we have time in our bite-size revision session online. But what I did want to highlight to you is, remember that it is a quick question. I don't need to rush it, but only spend around about 5 minutes. You've already read the text, and it's going to ask you again to read again the first part of the source. And it's the line numbers, as I said last week, that you have to take particular notice of. So make sure that you get your information from the correct line numbers. And in this one you can see it says list 4 things from this part of the text about what goes on at the neighbour's house. So we'd be having a look at this part of the text. So there was music from the neighbour's house through the summer nights. In his blue gardens men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars. At high tide in the afternoon I watched his guests diving from the tower of his raft or taking the sun on the hot sand of his beach while his 2 motorboats slit the waters of the Sound, drawing aquaplanes over cataracts of foam. On weekends his Rolls Royce became an omnibus bearing parties to and from the city between 9 in the morning and long past midnight, while his station wagon scampered like a brisk yellow bug to meet all trains. And on Mondays 8 servants, including the extra gardener, toiled all day with mops and scrubbing brushes and hammers and garden shears, repairing the ravages of the night before. So if you think it's only asking you for those 4 things, and I will put this on VLE, we can clearly see straight away, as I say, don't worry about those 4 things, because you can clearly see there's quite a lot of things here, and I'm going to go through the answers with you in a second. But what I was quite interested in when I started reading this text was the vocabulary of luxury. So we have champagne, we have guests diving from the tower of his raft, so obviously he owns a raft. He's got motorboats there. Hot sand of his beach, so he also owns a beach. On the weekends his Rolls Royce became an omnibus for his parties. So straight away, and this is a story about a man who's watching his neighbours' parties that are going on, but be aware of, as you read it, the semantic fields of words. So we have words that are linked there to luxury, to high social class. Okay, so when you have a look at this on VLE, a quick question that you needed to answer, and they're there for you. If it was me, I would make sure I'd put a little start of that sentence at the beginning. So at the neighbours' parties, the people were at the neighbours' parties, but those are okay to do like that, and those are 4 out of 4 valid marks. So we're going to go right through the paper. You know about question 2, and we're not going to answer these tonight. But you know about question 2. Remember that just how language has been used in a given section of the text. Okay, and it's going to give you the text, and this is about your point, evidence, explain, and that zooming in. You have to show these examiners in your test that you can point to words that have been used, or phrase or sentences that have been used effectively. And when you have done that, you have to select a short quote. And when you've done your short quote, zoom into one word that stands out to you. Is it the use of repetition? Has a writer used a personification to describe a section to the reader? Okay. So, as it just said, zoom in on word choices there, or language devices. Okay. And you'll get a question similar like this. It won't be any different to any of your paper 1 exams that you take on the 5th of June, on that 9:30, on the 5th of June, that Tuesday. Your question 2 will be like this. Obviously it may just be, hopefully it might be this source, but it may be a different source, and your line numbers might be slightly different. So you have to check line numbers. But this type of question, so how does the writer use language to describe the extravagance of the parties? Okay, so extravagance, as I was saying, those luxuries, things that happen at these parties, and you could include words and phrases, language features and techniques. Okay, so obviously this has been done by a tutor in class, and what I like about this tutor's PowerPoint, you can see at the bottom, it gives you some phrases. This makes the reader think, feel and imagine. Think about that anagram fit. Feel, imagine, think. What are those words doing to the reader? This conveys, remember, you can see at the bottom there, that just means this shows, and every word that you pick out, I'm almost certain, would have a connotation. And don't forget that connotation is that other implied meaning. Okay, so the denotation is the literal meaning, but those connotations have that implied meaning. Okay, so at this stage of your revision, think about how you feel about answering question 2. Hopefully at this stage now you feel that you've got it, you understand it. If not, that would be a revision for you if you go to the one at Parsons Walk next week. Don't forget there's revision sessions there. Or you can actually, so like some of my students, you can email, practice a question. There's lots of practice exams on the VLE. I'm sure your tutors have emailed you some past papers as well. Practice them. And, email to your tutors, see what they'll give you that feedback on how you're doing. Okay. So again, question 3, I say always the same. It's going to ask you about the structure. So this really isn't about the language feature, remember. This is about how as a writer put together that story on that page to not just to interest the reader, to make them think, to make them understand why a character is doing something in a certain way. If it's describing the setting to you first, then why? Why are they setting that scene? What does that help you understand about the story? So the text is from the opening of a novel. It usually is. It might say, this is in the middle of the novel, so please read the question carefully, but it will always be, question 3, will always be about structure. And they're looking there about things like circular structure, a flashback, dialogue, a contrast. Is there a motif? Is there a theme or an idea running through? And a good way of answering this, and I know I spoke to you about this last week, it's really about you answering these bullet points, okay? So, and that's where you could get some of your terminology in. So, what the writer focuses on, your attention on at the beginning. So simply answer that bullet point. Right at the beginning of the text, the writer focuses the reader's attention on. It might be a character, it might be the flashback, they might be giving you an event. But by using that focuses your attention, you've got your terminology in your opening paragraph. Next, so you do that point, evidence, explain of that. Because if you say, well, the writers used a flashback, well, the examiner wants to say, well, where is that? Could you give me a brief quote to show you know what you mean? And so do that point, evidence, explain. When it comes to your next bullet point, how and why the writer changes the focus as the source develops, this possibly could be around about the middle of your text. Has the writer narrowed the focus? has he added dialogue there, or she added dialogue, to really make the reader think. So with my group today, you may have done this, we were doing the landlady today. And there's a lovely piece in the middle of that where the writer presents the bed and breakfast of that story as a wonderful, pleasant place. And it's quite ironic, it's a real giving the writer or the reader a sense of security, because we know after that paragraph that really she's enticing Billy, the younger man, who's entering her bed and breakfast. She's enticing him in because she murders them. So please have a look at that as well on VLE. That's a really good one for structure. So we could have wrote there, the writer changes the focus. And I've got some more terminology there in my next paragraph. On our Great Gatsby text today, our change of focus is where he widens the focus and gives you more detail about the party. As I say, I don't spend too long on it this evening, but you can have a look at this at your own time and try and answer these questions, maybe email some of these practice paragraphs to your tutors. Any other structural features that interest you? I would generally, if you find some other one within the text and you feel confident writing about that, you've done your work with your tutors, that's great. I would generally look to the end of your text. There's usually something at the end of the text, excuse me, that's usually the writer has put this story together in such a way that it does make the reader think and it interests them. So on our story today, the writer focuses on the description of the neighbour's house and surroundings and kind of invites them into the luxury of the party. It then widens the focuses and tells them about quite sensory writing, about the music's there, about the food that's there, etc. But by the end of this text, the writer then narrows the focus to talk about one main character that's come. And she's quite a celeb, and we see that even though this was set in the 1920s, you can see that she's quite a celebrity to this party. And it ends on a wonderful, short sentence, let the party begin. So you know that there's some party could imply as different connotations, doesn't it? Is it going to be a stylish party? Is it going to be a raucous party? So this kind of makes the reader think, and not only, please don't write consistently, the writer makes the reader read on. What does they make him read on about? What are they inquisitive about with that focus, with that structural feature? Okay, so it says 8 marks and you have 10 minutes, and again we'll put this VLE we'll put this PowerPoint on VLE, so make sure you try and discuss that beginning, middle and end, and aim to write about 3 paragraphs, okay, because we've got 10 minutes for 8 marks. Okay. If I just move along and try and get that to question 4. Okay, so in this Great Gatsby text, it says focus this part of your answer on the second part of the source from line 19 to the end. A student, having read this section of the text, said the writer brings the parties to life for the reader, and it's as if you are there. To what extent do you agree? Okay, it's always I would encourage my students to agree. These are established writers and they have put some language features and sentence structure and structural features in there to help you be able to write at least a good 3-4 paragraphs around about why you agree. You could put a counter paragraph if you felt that actually the writer could have done a little bit more of sensory writing, or it could have told you a little bit more about the neighbour. So you are able to put a counter argument in, but make sure you can support that with some evidence, or you make a strong supporting counter argument. Okay, don't just disagree for disagreeing's sake. You need to be able to say why, looking at that language in the text, why you feel you need to disagree with that statement. But I would strongly urge you to agree. Okay, so it's for 20 marks. Please, again, try and make sure that you save enough time. Most of the tutors are asking their students to do question 1 and then question 4. And it's to discuss both language and structure, as you can see, and I will put this on VLE. And you will mostly agree, as it says there, but you could write, as you and I have just discussed, this counter argument. Okay? Welcome, Will. I can see you here that you've joined us. Okay, so what I've done here is, this is the section that you would have to agree with. So you've gone from question 1 and then you're looking at the section that they've asked you to agree. And you have to look for language features, structure, sentence structures. So what I've done here, I've actually highlighted some of these for you. So by 7 o'clock the orchestra has arrived. No thin 5-piece affair, but a whole pit full of oboes and trombones and saxophones and viols and cornets and piccolos and low and high drums. So here we have a wonderful list. So instantly I'm drawn to this writer is telling me how extravagant this party is. Okay, so I actually agree that the way that he's listing the amount of instruments that are at this party tells me that this is a high-class party, especially because it's got no thin 5-piece affair. So I would comment on the way that the writer has used a list to bring the sound. So he's using, we can imagine that the orchestra and these instruments there are going to play at this high-class party. The last swimmers have come up from the beach now and are dressing upstairs. The car from New York are packed 5 deep in the drive. So again, I know that this is going to be a busy party, and already the halls and salons and verandas are gaudy with primary colours and hair shown in strange new ways, and shawls beyond the dreams of Castile. So here we have again, he's listing how busy this is. Yes, it's just the salons, the verandas, everywhere is busy with these people. And I like the idea where he's put hair shorn in strange new ways. Almost these people are trend setting here at this party. The bar is in full swing. Okay, so that really has, it's almost like an idiom, isn't it, and a phrase, and it has that idea that straight away this is a bustling party. Okay, and I know that because the connotation is full swing, you almost imagine that to be you know, a nice and full of music and gaiety. And floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden outside. So again, we've got this metaphor here. So all these cocktails are seeping through the garden outside to all of these guests until the air is alive with chatter and laughter and the casual innuendos and introductions forgotten on the spot, and enthusiastic meetings between women who never knew each other's names. So I like the way this writer has used alliteration here. The air is alive, and this innuendo and introductions. So the casual innuendos, you know that there's a lot of flirting going on at this, and women who never even knew each other's names. Okay. The lights grow brighter as the earth lurches away from the sun. So we've got this nice personification here. The earth is not doing its normal thing, it's trying to get out of the way so that its party can go ahead. Almost like this neighbour's in control of all this. And now the orchestra is playing yellow cocktail music in the opera, the voices pitches a key higher. And laughter is easier minute by minute, spilled with prodigality, tipped out of a cheerful word. The groups change more swiftly, swell with new arisals, dissolve and form into the same breath. So I really like these verbs here where they're telling you about this party, and it's almost, there's so much going on. And again, these confident girls who weave. So how do I feel that I'm there? Well, it's the action that's taking place. It's swelling with new arrivals, dissolving as though each one are just mingling into one. People are confidently weaving, as you can't perhaps imagine at a Christmas party or a New Year's party where everything's so hectic. So I really do feel this writer's really making me feel like I'm at this party. So I do agree with this student statement. And then again, if you just look a couple of sentences down, the sea change of faces and voices and colour under the constantly changing light. So the sea change of faces, that nice metaphor there. Almost these people are coming into waves. We know, don't we, further up that there's 5 deep in the drive there, so we know that there's lots of people there, and these people are just milling around. It's almost like wave after wave, different people. So I've got lots to talk about, haven't I, really, there? I've got alliteration, I've got personification, I've got lists, I've got lovely complex sentences where he's describing things almost like I'm moving around the party with them. And then if I wanted to talk about structure, I'm going to talk about at the end where he narrows the focus on one particular person that comes in. Suddenly one of these gypsies in trembling opal seizes a cocktail out of the air. Almost magical, yeah? And you can see that I would use that, he literally just narrows the focus to this lady here. She is Gilda Gray's understudy from the Follies. And then I perhaps would, the party has begun, that lovely short sentence at the end. So he ends his structure on a narrow focus, and he uses that short sentence there to make the reader really think, wow, what kind of party is this? I thought it was already taking place, but now he entices me with more, that there's something more now. This kind of gypsy has entered into the text. Okay, so you can use that as a guide. The writer brings the party to life for the reader, and again we've got some language and structure and sentences there. And I've put a few there for you, so if you look at this PowerPoint on the VLE, you can perhaps have a look and have a try at answering this question. So how do you feel about answering question 4 now? If this is all about you practicing. I know that, as I say, like my students, you would have practiced in class, and again these are things that you can be looking at in the study clinics. On that last day of revision on Monday, please check out when the study clinics are. You may have not been to one yet. It is honestly never too late. Please come and join us. We're all sat waiting for you to come along. It would be lovely for you, even if it's your first time at a study clinic, have a try. We're there to do these one-to-one sessions. Okay. So obviously after that you have your narrative or your descriptive. Lots of you have worked on splitting that picture up for a descriptive. Don't forget, it's a really good idea to split that picture up as well to do your narrative. Think about that pathetic fallacy. Think about using the weather as a kind of source of setting that scene. Once you've split that up, maybe an area of that picture, you could make that quite a dramatic scene or part of the character's life. So again, I know there's going to be some live streaming next week, and I'll be here on the Thursday before the 8th of June going over paper 2. So have a great half term everybody, and thank you for tuning in.